All right, what's going on? We are back with another high ticket sales role play. We're going to jump into an offer that is for someone that's working in more of a corporate job that wants to transition into something online. And this specific offer helps people get into a CSM role where they could have more freedom. They might even be able to earn more money, but ultimately they can get out of the corporate rat race. So Zion's going to be the closer for us, and Daniel is going to play the prospect. We're going to go through the discovery so that you know the things that are missing in your discovery of your sales calls that are keeping you from earning the money that you truly want to be earning in sales. So without any further ado, let's crack in. Zion, with your opening question.
All right, Daniel. So I got all the details, and so I'm just curious, what's the biggest reason that has you looking to transition into a remote CSM role right now?
Yeah, so I am right now I'm doing like in-person sales. And
Okay.
so I actually sell cars and I'm just looking for something where I can, work from home and have more freedom right now.
Okay. Got it. So you're a car salesman, just want to be able to work remotely from home and have more freedom.
Yeah,
Got it. Okay. And how many hours per week would you say you're working in the dealership?
I'm working 10 hours a day.
Okay. Got it. And is that across 5 days, all 7 days, or what does that look like?
So typically 6 days a week, but sometimes we do have weeks where I go for like seven.
Okay. Got it. So on a minimum week, you're working at least 60 hours.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Got it. And as far as, I guess, the freedom you have, I mean, working that much on a week to week basis, what might be some of the things that you're not able to do because of just the amount of work you're doing?
I mean, I have a family and like I get to see them in the evening. I would just love to see them more. And also because of the fact that I get out by 6 a.m. And so I get
Wow.
home by like 4 p.m. And then I get the evening with them, but then I don't have time to focus on myself. And so like I could wake up potentially at 4 a.m., but like I don't really know if I want to do that. So yeah, I really want to focus on myself. I started like because of like the fact that I'm working there the whole day, I don't really have access to like good foods and the environment and stuff like that. So I'm pretty much like not really in shape. So I want to more focus on myself, but also have time for my family as well.
Understood. Okay, so you have your family, but with the time that you're spending in work, it sounds like it's also having an impact just on yourself, just as far as even your health. Is that right?
Yeah.
If you can elaborate on that, like how specifically is it having an effect just on yourself?
Yeah. I mean, well, the thing is, when I am working there, the only available place is like, fast food places around there. And so
Mm,
when I need to eat lunch, so, I just get, like a fast food place. I order from there. And then at the end of the day, I don't really eat very healthy. And then I don't really get to exercise as well. And so, I gained weight and stuff like that. And so that's kind of like how it's affecting me.
okay, gotcha. So it sounds like because you're there so much, your only options are things that are unhealthy and overall having just an impact on you.
Correct.
How is consistently having to eat unhealthy and just not being able to exercise affecting you in, I mean, other areas of your life? If you can elaborate.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, well, I just don't really feel good with myself. I gained a lot of weight, over the last year or so. It's really hard to play with my kids whenever I do get to have the time with them. So, yeah.
Wow, okay. So, because I know you mentioned that really you only have evenings with the family. I guess the fact that you have to, come home knowing that your only options have been unhealthy things and your time with the kids is affected not just because of the work, but also your health. I mean, how does that make you feel?
All right, let's pause there. I wanted to see how far you go. Let me swap my image back to the other one. Hang on one sec. All right. Put in the chat, guys, what our thoughts are so far, because there was something that happened, which was the effect, and then there was something that happened, which was the cause of that, that I want to see if both of you caught, which is what needs to be improved on this role play. So you can either put the cause or you can put the effect, guys. I will give you a point for either of those. What is the biggest thing that's going wrong on this role play so far?
Why things are happening?
I'm reading the chat. Bit surface level, not going deeper. He asked for the biggest reason, not the biggest challenge. Moving on too quickly. That's closer. Too broad. Data around pain, not enough data. What I felt, guys, and tell me if you feel the same in the chat, is that it felt like Zion was pushing the conversation into certain kind of directions and categories that he wanted it to go, as opposed to leaning out and being more curious about the things that Daniel said. For example, the opening, Daniel said something about working from home and wanting more freedom. We then very quickly got into the kids and how many hours he's working in the dealership. And I'm hearing that and I'm like, why are we not talking about freedom yet or the home life yet and working from home? And the reason for that was that Zion was kind of jumping over the things that Daniel was already saying and seeing if he could get to other levels. Now, of course, you need to get to the other levels, but you have to get there through the levels. You can't, otherwise you may end up on a deeper level, but you've gone off to the side into the wrong things. So you're deeper, but you're deeper in the wrong areas. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
from the very opening question, when Daniel says, and I left you to go because you could have circled back to it. You could have gone, okay, got it. You know, you're working in the dealership. How many hours are you working? Blah, 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 blah. You could have done that. It would have not been ideal, but it would have been okay if we'd have gone back to it. But because we just carried on going and then now all of a sudden we're into, you know, I've put on weight. I'm not playing with my kids. We're so far into all of these different tangents that you don't have a thread that's going through all of them. And it'll be very complicated for you as the closer to tie it back together. But more importantly, it will be complicated for the prospect to feel and see how we've got to where we've got to. Does that make sense?
So just to clarify, so it's because I'm getting pain, but it's just pain without the cause yet. Is that basically what you're saying?
Let me explain it in an analogy. Have any of you ever watched a movie, guys? I can't think of the name of one off the top of my head, so I'll just explain the concept. And you know how in a movie, there's usually multiple different storylines that are happening at the same time. There'll be a storyline about a guy over here, and there'll be a storyline about a girl over here, and there'll be a storyline about someone else over there. And have you ever watched a movie where at the front part of the movie, maybe the first 20 minutes, they're opening up storylines about so many different people that are currently not connected that 30 minutes into the movie, you're like, I'm confused. Like, there's this character over here, there's this character over there, there's another character over here, and I've got like 7 different storylines that I'm trying to figure out how does this all come together. Now, some good movies do that, and then like right at the end of the movie, you're like, oh my God, that's how everything connected together. But there's a tipping point in the middle where you could lose the audience because they're like, I'm just so confused. I can't see how everything connects that I've kind of just checked out. Does that make sense, guys? So sure, when we're doing data gathering, we need to gather bits about different things, but you can't be having 7 different narratives going on without the prospect seeing how we've weaved through those narratives. Otherwise, they're like the person in the audience at the cinema that's like, we're talking about this. We're talking a bit about this. We're talking a bit about this. I'm just so confused now. I've checked out. Does that make sense? So if we'd have got to, I don't feel good, I'm putting on weight, I'm not playing with my kids, through the line of not having freedom, not working from home, it's like following the breadcrumbs that we could follow the breadcrumbs back and it makes sense. But right now, there's no breadcrumbs between the whole narrative. So it's confusing. Does that make sense?
I see. So basically, his answer to the opening question, I kind of just jumped into, okay, well, how much are you working?
100%.
And it wasn't like a clear, okay.
Exactly. And because of there, we had a fork where we had the bit about home and freedom, and then we hit like a dead end there because you didn't go any further. And then you forked off into another direction. But now we've gone far down this direction, but we still had this bit that hasn't been like completed. So now my mind is like, Am I over here or am I still over here? And it's called an open loop. Now, open loops are good for things like marketing to hook people in, but an open loop is not good when you're trying to sell someone. When you're trying to sell someone, you don't want there to be things that haven't been concluded. If you haven't concluded something, it's because you're still following the thread, as opposed to, hey, let's talk about this. Let's just put a pin in that over there and we'll come back to it and we'll go and talk about something else. Because now the prospect's not present because they're like, well, I'm still wondering where we're going to go with this thing. You can't leave things for later. Sure, if someone says something, you can make a little note of it if you're still following a more important line of things. But right now, the biggest error in the discovery that you've done so far is there's no through line. So I'm just
Right.
confused how everything's connecting together. Does that make sense? So let's go all the way back. You can be the
Okay.
same prospect, Daniel, and we'll do it again. And I want you to make each question step by step, following along where we're going in the discovery. Okay?
Got it.
All right,
Okay.
off we go from the opening question.
All right, Daniel. So I got all the details. What do you feel like is the biggest reason that has you looking to transition into a remote CSM role right now?
Yeah, so right now I work in in-person sales. I do car sales
Okay.
and it's very demanding, so I work a lot of hours per day and I just don't have the freedom I'm looking for.
Okay. Got it. So it's very demanding because of the amount of hours that you're working and you don't have the freedom that you're looking for. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha. Okay. And I guess in what way specifically is it demanding?
Well, I'm working 10 hours a day right now.
Hmm.
Um, and I have to go physically to the dealership and stuff like that. And it's not very physically hard, but I'm still working physically. And so I need to drive there. It's an hour drive. I'm working 10 hours there, going back home, an hour drive. So it's kind of like exhausting for me.
Okay. Gotcha. So, I mean, you're working 10 hours a day on top of a 2 hour round trip commute. I guess in terms of demanding, because I know you mentioned it's not physically demanding, I guess help me understand how exactly it is demanding for you.
Well, it's demanding because of the fact that I spend 12 hours a day going to that job and working there.
Understood. Okay. And as far as the freedom, because I hear that a lot, Daniel, people mainly want to do this for a bigger sense of freedom, but what does that actually mean for you?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I have a family, so I have two kids and one wife, and like I don't really get to spend the time I want to be spending with them. And when I do get the time, I don't really want to do anything because I'm tired of the work that I've done the whole day.
Gotcha. Okay. So you don't have the time to spend with them. The time that you do have, basically because of the demanding of the job, you don't have the energy to show up as you want.
Right, yeah.
Mm. I mean, was that telegraphed kind of?
No, not too much. It's on the line, but it's okay. You can keep going.
Got it. So out of curiosity, because I know basically you're working 12 hours a day, including the drive. I mean, what time do you have just to spend with your kids, with your family on a day-to-day basis?
Change that question. Great question. Fantastic question. But the phrasing, what time do you have? Like, what do you mean by that question? What time do you have? What's a better way that you can ask the question that you're going to have to get Daniel to sit in the reality of his current situation. Change the phrasing of the question. Great question, but you need to phrase it differently.
Okay. So Daniel, I mean, working 12 hours per day, what time do you get home from work
Nope,
on an
that's
average
that's
day?
that's too logical. The question you were asking, correct me if I'm wrong, was basically, so you've got a very limited amount of time now. How are things with your wife and kids? Like, how is it? How's things going? What does that look like? Like, that's basically what you're asking. So ask it as a more open question. Give it another go. See if you can figure it out. I don't want to give it to you.
Okay, got it. So Daniel, I understand you're working 12 hours a day, including the drive there and back. I mean, as far as this time with the kids, time with the family, like what does that look like right now?
Much better, much better, more broad. You can go even broader, but that was much better. I personally would have said, okay, so working 12 hours a day plus the commute. You mentioned your wife, you mentioned your kids. So how are those things right now? Or how are things in that department right now? Or how is that going right now? My favorite, if I want a broad question, my favorite way to phrase it is always how rather than
Hmm.
what. Who, what, where, when, why. Those are your main openers for questions. Who, what, where, when, why. But the most powerful one, if you want a very broad one, is how. How's it going? How did that go? If I'm selling a dating offer, you went on a date 2 days ago. How did it go? As opposed to what happened. What happened is going to give you information, but it's much more specific. Whereas initially, we want to lean out and get the person to step into the experience that they had or the experience they're having. Does that make sense, Zion?
Yeah,
Good stuff.
100%. I'm just going to re-ask it.
Perfect. Go for it.
Got it, Daniel. So I understand you're working 10 hours a day, 12 hours total, including the commute, and you mentioned your two kids and your wife. How are things going right now?
Yeah,
I like that. That was beautiful. I actually think your tonality could be more, mm, what's the word for it? More pressing. You're like, how are things going right now? Like it was almost like too soft because it's like it can't be good. If he's got 12-hour days and commute, I'd be like, so how are things? It's more like Matt said, more of a kind of like, are things bad? Does that make sense? Your tonality?
Yeah, yeah. Let's
Yeah.
run it again.
All right, run it again. Good stuff.
Okay, cool, Daniel. So I understand you're working 10 hours on the job, 12 hours including the commute, and you mentioned your two kids and your wife. I mean, how are things going right now?
Much better.
yeah, man. I mean, I get to see them like maybe like 4 hours a day because I go to sleep pretty early because I gotta wake up early. So I see them about 4 hours a day. But like I said before, even with the time I do get to see them, it's not like I'm hanging out with them as I should be. And, you know, I just don't feel like they're getting what they should get from me when I'm coming back home, after they finish school. And also, I don't really have the time with my wife.
Okay, gotcha. So I guess first I want to touch on, I mean, what do you feel like they should be getting that they're not getting right now?
What's wrong with that? You're going in the right direction in terms of where you need to dive deeper, but the perspective that you're using is the wrong perspective. The perspective that you just asked them were
Hmm.
that you just asked
It's not
Zion,
ownership.
sorry, Daniel, was what should they be getting? Future pacing. Don't do that. So if they're not getting what you feel like they should be getting, what are they getting? What are
Okay.
they getting as
Yeah,
opposed to
that's
what
okay.
should they be getting? Because should they be getting allows the prospect to be detached from the pain and the responsibility. What are they getting is he has to sit there in guilt and shame and be like, well, they're really not getting anything. Well, what do you mean? And this is where, and this is why I circled this home. This is where we're now starting to have the real conversation. The real pain point, one of them could also be this one, but this one so far is his home life. That's where the pain is, his home life. We're now getting into it. And what I want you to see is that there's going to be like 4 layers to it. So the first layer was, wife plus kids. The second layer was they're not getting, all right, that should probably just say not getting, what they want or need. I'll just put need. The third layer is so what are they getting? What are they getting? The fourth layer would be, what do you mean by that? Or tell me more details. What do you mean? And then layer 5 and layer 6 could be things like, how does that make you feel? How's it affecting your wife? Turning point. So this is like layer 7 now. So can you see how we're going down, 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 down into one specific territory, which is the home? Does that make sense? Whereas before, what we were
Yeah.
doing, Zion, if this is kind of your discovery and this was your starting point, we were kind of going off here and then kind of going off here and then like kind of going off here, as opposed to finding a thread and then going all the way down the thread. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I almost because he Daniel changed his answer a little bit because he threw demanding in there, right? The
Yeah.
work is demanding. So I kind of went down that track. Okay, well, what is demanding? What is the work? And then I went back to the freedom. So was that fine, or would you have just dove, okay, like dive right into the freedom?
Well, we need to make sure that we use the demanding as kind of our through line. This would be like demanding, which is the cause to get to the effect. That's what I was saying before. It has to follow a thread all the way through. But
Right.
you
Okay.
you don't want to get to this bit about demanding and use the demanding work to go 7 layers deep into what he means by demanding. Like, we don't care about him saying, well, the specific reason it's demanding is that I really don't like, Microsoft Word. And on a daily basis, I have to type at least 3,500 words on Microsoft Word, blah, 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 blah. All of those details about the cause would not be that relevant until we first got the effect. The first thing you have to do at the front part of the sales call is, why is this painful? Does that make sense? And you want to get there pretty quickly. Otherwise, this thing here, from here to here, could have been like 20 minutes, but all we're really talking about is the details about the work. Whereas what we need that first 15, 20 minutes to be is the details about the effect. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Got it.
Okay. Is this clear for everybody else in the chat? Good. All right. I need a new piece of paper. So I feel like I'm doing art attack here. All right. Keep going, Zion. Off you go.
Got it, Daniel. So I understand you feel like that, your kids aren't getting what they should be. What are they getting right now?
Beautiful.
I mean, not a lot, man.
What do you mean?
So what did you do
Well,
wrong there? What did you do wrong there?
maybe just talk too early, just stay
100%.
quiet.
100%.
Yeah.
When they're about to start thinking, make them have to think. Don't jump in.
Okay,
Yeah.
got
All
it.
right. Keep going. So just ask the previous question, and then Daniel's going to take his time to think about it. Key thing to remember, guys, is when the prospect's taking a few moments to think about it, that's the key thing that you need to be happening on a sales call. Like, that's what we did all the data gathering to get to, was that moment where the cadence, keyword cadence, has changed. The cadence before was Zahn asks a question, Daniel gives an answer. That's fine. That's data gathering. But after that, the cadence is Zahn asks a question and Daniel now needs a moment to think about it. When you hear that change and you feel that change in cadence, you should be like, oh, great, we're on the money now. Okay. All right. Keep going.
Got it, Daniel. So I understand that you feel like your kids should be getting just more out of you. I'm curious, what are they getting right now?
Yeah, I mean, not a lot. Just I genuinely really don't have enough time with them. And yeah, I guess like whenever I'm coming home, I don't really have the energy for them. I don't know if that's the right thing to say, but I don't really have the energy to do things with them, and they do want to do that. So yeah, they aren't getting a lot from me right now.
Gotcha. So I understand that
And
because of, your
hang on, hang
energy.
on, hang on. You said gotcha. Do you? Do you understand what's actually going on?
No, I said gotcha kind of like robotically just because I said
Exactly.
gotcha. But
Exactly.
I
You
was just
got
gonna
you got to
ask the
be
same question again.
you
Yeah.
got you got to be careful that you're not just going into habits of, okay, got it. Because saying got it when you don't got it is training the prospect to be like, oh, I'll just keep giving those types of bullshit vague answers because the closer is telling me that that was useful. You got to be very careful with these minor things, guys. If someone says something and you're like, I don't get it, I would just say, okay. So you don't have the energy when you get home. So what happens? Don't say got it if you don't get it, because then you're just training the prospect in the wrong direction. Okay. So be very careful of these little details, guys.
Okay.
This is all the core principle of this is authenticity, guys. Be authentic. If you don't got it, don't say you got it. Okay. All right. Keep going, Zan.
Okay. I mean, I understand that you don't have the energy, so I guess because of that, like, what are they getting?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, nothing really.
Okay. So when you say nothing really, like, can you tell me what typically happens in regards to your relationship with your wife and your kids on a day-to-day basis, given this job that you have right now?
Yeah, I'm just getting back home, kind of like laying on the couch, watching some Netflix and just doing nothing with them.
And what are your wife and kids doing?
Typically, they're just like being. So they want to do things with me, but typically I'm the one that's like taking them all together to do something. And whenever I don't make it happen, then nothing happens.
And how often are you making something happen?
I mean, not often enough, like maybe on the weekends,
Okay.
Sundays.
Did you do something with them last Sunday?
Last Sunday I was at work.
Okay. In the last month, how many Sundays have you actually spent time with them?
We went out one time for like a trip in the park one time.
So that's one day in the last 30 days.
Yeah.
What about the other 29 days that your wife and your kids, you said they wanted to do something with you?
Yeah, I mean, they're just sitting there hoping that I will do something, but kind of like also knowing like, he's not gonna do anything. He doesn't have the energy. So yeah, pretty much nothing happens.
Okay. So hopefully you're enjoying this training. Now, if you're brand new to the channel, you can skip this. But if you've been watching my videos for weeks or months, you've gotten value, you've implemented, you're making more money because of it, the question I have for you is, what are you doing? Still sitting on the outside? Are you someone who's going to continue to just watch free content when deep down you know being on the inside, being mentored by me directly, being around other unicorn closers is the thing that would take you to the next level? If you think you're getting value from the free content I'm putting out here on YouTube, what do you think happens inside the mastermind? So if you know you're ready, if you're at that point, you've seen what you needed to see, click the link below this video, jump inside. I'll see you there. Now back to the training. You see what I'm doing there, guys? I'm making him go through all the details of that. There's no vagueness. He has to face the reality of what's really going on. Okay? Does that make sense to you, Zion?
Yeah, 100%. It's a lot more like he's sitting in it.
Yeah, he has to paint the picture, as Don said, and as Chris said, give him the paintbrush. Yeah. All right,
One
jump.
time in the last 30 days. That's pretty
Yeah,
brutal.
and that was all data gathering, guys. Well, I do something with them on a Sunday. Okay, well, did you do something this Sunday? Well, no. Okay, interesting. What about in the last 4 weeks? Well, we did something once. Notice the lies that the prospect is telling themselves and telling you. And if you don't get into the specific data, you would slide past that and make an error of judgment that, well, every Sunday he does something with his kids. No, he doesn't. You got to always get the data points when someone gives you a general thing like, oh, on Sundays. Because on Sundays, look at the verbiage, guys. On Sundays is a generalization. The word on is general, as opposed to him saying the last 2 Sundays in the last 30 days. The specifics would have been time period and quantity. There is no time period and there is no quantity when someone just says on Sundays. On Sundays, we do something. Okay. Did you do something this Sunday? No. Okay. What about in the last 30 days? 4 Sundays. Once. Okay. And then that would probably be a good moment to challenge the person and say, so you mentioned that you do something on Sundays. Listen to the verbiage here, guys. You mentioned you do something on Sundays. It sounds like that's more of you're telling yourself you're going to do something on Sundays, but it very rarely happens. Is that more accurate? Well, yeah, I guess so. Okay, got it. Getting the prospect to clarify their own truth. So when you say that you do something on Sundays, sounds like that's more of a story that you tell yourself, but actually in practice, it rarely turns out that way. Is that accurate? Yes. Okay. How long have you been telling yourself that you're doing things once a week or that once a week is enough, but actually that reality has not been the case? Well, it's probably been 2 years. Got it. What do you think that incongruence is doing to your wife and kids? That you're telling yourself it's going to happen on Sunday, telling yourself that it does happen on Sundays, but the reality that your wife and kids are experiencing is something very different. What is that doing to them? Notice it's all clarifying the truth, guys. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
So quickly in the pain. It's
Yep.
amazing.
All right, let's go back a bit, Zion, and then jump back in yourself, and then we'll go through it. So you can jump in wherever you wanted to.
Yeah, let's just go back to what are they getting?
Yep.
All right, Daniel. So I understand that because of the job, you don't have the energy and you feel like your kids should be getting more. Right now, when you get home, what are they getting?
Not a lot. I mean, I'm coming back home. I'm pretty tired after working for, 12 hours a day and driving back home. And yeah, we typically just do nothing.
Okay. Well, when you come home, what is actually going on like in the household, like with you and with the kids and with the wife?
Specify it because the reason you're asking that question is what? What was it that
Because
Daniel said that means you have to get more detail?
he said nothing. I
Exactly.
don't have any detail.
Exactly. So you'd say, okay, so you said that you do nothing. So what does happen on a day-to-day basis when you get home in regards to you interfacing with your wife and kids? Because nothing doesn't mean he gets home and he goes into a coma. Like
Right.
he's obviously doing something. He doesn't just get home and just I mean, if the prospect had been being really evasive for the whole call, that would be a good time to pattern interrupt and say, okay, so when you say you do nothing, as in you just go home and fall asleep. Oh, no, 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 I don't just fall asleep. Okay, so what does happen? But I wouldn't use that pattern interrupt if the prospect's being, reasonable. But it's an example of how when people say something so ridiculous because it's missing so much truthful information, you can pattern interrupt them with kind of a joke, but it's a backhanded joke. It's like I'm making a joke to point out the fact that you're being evasive to yourself from the truth. Okay. All right. Keep going, Zahn.
Gotcha. So when you get home, like what is actually going on? Like what is nothing?
I mean, yeah, I just get back home. Typically, I just sit on the couch for a couple of hours, maybe talk to them, maybe watch some Netflix, which I know is not great for me. So yeah, just not really doing any activities with them.
And while you're at home, just watching Netflix, maybe talking to them a little bit. I mean, what are they doing?
Yeah, good question.
Confusing because you tied the two together. When you're talking to them and when you're watching Netflix, not talking to them, what are they doing? So now it's like, well, when I'm talking to them, what they're doing is talking back to me. But when I'm watching Netflix, they're not talking. So because you tied them both into one thing, it's a bit of a confusing thing for the prospect to respond to. So I would say, okay, so you mentioned sometimes you're talking to them a little bit. What about all of the rest of the time when you're either on the couch watching Netflix or doing whatever else? What are they doing? Now he has one specific narrow part that he has to respond to, which is what about all the rest of the time? Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, it does. I just didn't want to like leave that part out and make it look like I'm telegraphing like, oh, like
100%.
trying to get pain.
That's
So,
very good. You don't want to leave it out, but you would use it as a quick summary and then have your question pointed at the bit that is the missing information. You're spot on. If you'd have missed it out, it sounds like you're like, yeah, well, let's just ignore the bit that you are in interfacing with them.
right, right.
Yeah. Okay. Keep going.
Okay. Got it, Daniel. So I understand. I mean, you're talking to them just a little bit. I guess when you're not and you're just watching Netflix, it sounds like, I mean, what are they doing?
I mean, when I sit on the couch and watch Netflix, they are kind of like in their rooms, I guess like in their phones, not really doing anything as well. So that's pretty much it.
Okay. Understood. And I mean,
Go a little bit deeper on that because
okay.
there's one word there that he used that is very subtly being indirect. The word he used was they. Notice the difference between these two things that Daniel could have said. When I'm not interfacing with them, they are in their room playing on their phones. Versus when I'm not interfacing with them, my wife and my kids are in their rooms playing on the phone. Just that minor specific of wife and kids makes it so much more visceral. Like, do you not see a different picture in your head, guys, when someone says they are in their rooms playing on the phones? You kind of get this image of like random people in the house on the phones versus the labeling of my wife is in a separate room while I'm in a different room sitting on the couch watching Netflix. My children are upstairs in their room playing alone whilst I'm downstairs on my own. Notice just the tiny, tiny details. So I would have said, okay, so to make sure I'm clear, when you say they, you mean you're in one room sitting on the couch watching Netflix, and your wife is in a completely different room, like playing on her phone. Is that accurate? Now he's
Would
like,
you
oh shit, like that's so much more visceral. And notice my tonality. I'm like, am I confused here, or is the absurdity of this situation actually what it is?
I have a question. So
Go for it.
because he seems to be going down this path where he's not specific and just kind of lying to himself, would you ask it like that because of that?
Correct.
Okay, so let's just
He-
say it was a prospect who was more specific. You'd probably just see like, so okay, who is they? Just to clarify, something like more light.
well, the reason that we're phrasing it in the tonality the way we are is because we know who they is. We're not actually asking the question for the literal answer. Like, hang on, you said wife and kids, so who is they? Well, my wife and kids, because that's what I just told you. The reason we're clarifying it is because the way that he said they was very disassociated to the severity of that situation emotionally. He was like, yeah, I'm sat downstairs on the couch watching Netflix and they're in their room on their phones. As opposed to if he was really feeling the responsibility of this situation, he should be saying, yeah, I'm downstairs on the couch watching Netflix and my wife is like just in another room. Notice the difference. One means he feels the pain and the responsibility, and the other is he's not getting it. So our job, our responsibility is to try and help the prospect get it because they're in pain, but they're in more pain than they're even conscious of. And our job is to see if we can help them see it and feel it for what it really is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
And this is why a key thing, I've just noticed Jeremy's comment, tonality training, guys, in the traditional sense, I'm not going to name other programs, but you know the one I'm referring to in general. The tonality training is a mistake for one main reason. When they do tonality training, what they're training you on is you as the closer should have certain tonalities in your arsenal that you deploy based on certain moments of the script. The real thing that you need to be training on with tonality is based on the prospect. Your tonality should be going this direction. This is the cause, and this is the effect, as opposed to this direction, where I just have pre-planned tonalities that I deploy as the closer. That's not going to do anything for you guys. Your tonality should be based on hearing, feeling, and listening to the prospect and going, based on what they just said and the way they said it, my tonality is now going to change. Does that make sense, guys? There's nothing wrong with the principle of tonality training. Of course, your tonality matters. The issue is just being handed a Rolodex of certain tonalities at certain points on a script, tonality A, tonality B, tonality C, tonality D, and this is, script top to bottom, is like, well, that's not how it works. Your script, which is no script, is prospect says something, and based on that, your tonality is this. Prospect says something else, and based on that, your tonality is that. Your tonality is only in relation to what the prospect is doing. It's not in relation to just pre-planned tonalities. Does that make sense, guys? Exactly. Just like a real conversation. Your tonality would change in a real conversation based on what's going on in the conversation. Okay? All right. Keep going. Zion.
Got it, Daniel. So when you're not talking to them, when you're at home just watching Netflix, your kids and your wife are in their rooms playing on their phones?
I'm not sure if my wife is playing on the phone. My kids are, but yeah, my wife is yeah, man. I mean, sh lately she's not been sitting with me there
Why do you think that is?
because
I would go more into the data first. Do you know what she's doing instead?
yeah.
Okay.
Right? Because
All
now
right.
he's having to think about that. Like, well, and here's the interesting thing, guys. It doesn't actually matter if the prospect does know or doesn't know. Because we're gonna now make him start hypothesizing a bunch of different things, which is more than enough. He's like, well, maybe she's just sat there talking to her friends and trying to kill time, or maybe she's fucking swiping on Tinder or whatever. Like, he's gonna have to start thinking about that. Okay, all right, keep
Okay.
going.
Do you know what she's doing instead?
I haven't really asked her. I don't really know, which I guess is like,
Well, what do you think she's doing?
I mean, at the end of the day, I know that my wife is like very into fitness
Okay,
and she likes going to the gym, being fit, stuff like that. And I'm not really showing up that way right now, so I don't want to jump into conclusions, but like I don't know if she's just sitting there just thinking about me and what we can do together.
what do you mean?
Well, what I mean is that uh yeah, I just don't know if she wanna come hang out with me or do cool stuff that she likes to do.
I'm not following. So what are you saying that you think she's doing?
Well, what I'm saying is that I don't know, maybe she's looking at other options, just doing nothing, just being on her phone, talking to her friends.
And do you think
I
that's
don't really know.
reasonable?
I guess. Yeah.
Why?
Because I am not showing up in the way that she's expecting me to and that I expect myself to.
How do you think this makes her feel? Having to entertain other options, other activities, other people, things like that, because the guy that she wants to show up the way that she wants you to show up is refusing to do so.
Yeah, I don't feel like she's feeling good because like, at the end of the day, we are married for uh 13 years and I know she loves me and I used to be fit and going to the gym and we used to do things together and yeah, I mean maybe she's not happy that we don't do these things anymore.
Can I ask you a very honest question?
Yeah, sure.
And can I ask you to not give me the politically correct answer, but to just give me the real answer?
Yeah.
If you had a wife that you were very physically attracted to, she was in shape, she took care of herself, and then at a certain point in the relationship, in the marriage, she let the wheels fall off and she stopped taking care of being attractive. How long do you think it would be before you start getting fed up with that and wanting to actually maybe find someone else?
Oh man. I don't know. It will take me like maximum 6 months,
And how long have you put your wife in that situation?
2 years,
So where do you think she's at on that timeline?
pretty much on the edge.
On the edge.
Maybe she's gone over the edge already.
Well, unless she has a very different timeline to you, it sounds like she's 4 times past the timeline that it would have taken you to essentially not be willing to settle any longer for someone that's not showing up to the relationship how you expect them to. Or did I misunderstand something?
No, you got it right. I mean, I guess I don't know if she's speaking to anybody else, but yeah, maybe she did go over the line.
Why not just let her go over the line and just let the relationship fall apart?
I mean, I love her. We've been married for 13 years. And, you know, yeah, we have kids, we have a family. I don't want that to happen.
Do you think she wants that to happen?
No, no, I don't
Who,
think so.
if it does happen, who made it happen?
I mean, me.
Where are you at now in terms of this conversation?
Yeah, I need to change that because I cannot let that happen.
And so, how does this tie back to you changing roles in your job?
Well, if I can get to the point where I can work from home and work less hours and be less drained physically and mentally, yeah, that'd be awesome. And I think that can solve the issues.
And so, if that's what would have already solved the issues over the last 2 years, you mentioned if that could happen, why hasn't it happened?
I guess I wasn't clear on what the situation actually is,
Okay. How
but
clear are you on it now?
yeah, right now I'm extremely clear.
When did you get clear?
I mean, when you kind of ask me about what she's doing and what was the timeline for me to keep being in a relationship if my wife would have acted like that, then yeah, that got me to that clarity.
Well, I appreciate that maybe I was able to give you additional clarity, but where was that clarity when you booked in the call before you and I had even started discussing this?
Oh, yeah, I mean, just the fact that she wasn't really wanting to, be with me and kind of like hiding things. I was like, yeah, maybe I should make a change towards like being more at home and spending more time with her and my kids.
Okay. And in regards to not wanting to do things with you or hiding things, was there any changes in those things recently compared to over the last 2 years?
Yeah. Typically we're just like very open about everything. And I just feel like over the last few months, she was like kind of like more reserved in sharing things with me and wasn't really open. And, I just didn't feel like I felt like things are wrong.
Things are what?
Wrong.
Wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. And you mentioned the last few months. How many months has that been?
Last 3 months.
Okay. And so during those last 3 months that things have been wrong and she's not been open and she's been hiding things, what action have you taken to change jobs so that you save your marriage and essentially save the relationship that you have with your wife for your kids?
Nothing really besides booking in this call.
Okay. I mean, are you spotting the kind of disparity here, Daniel?
In what way?
Well, you said that you you would save your marriage and save your kids' relationship with their parents being together if you could get to the point where you had a different job. And it's been like that for 2 years, but you said the reason you didn't do anything for the last uh 21 months was you weren't really that clear on things, possibly,
Hmm.
but you were much clearer for the last 3 months, but you still haven't done anything for the last 3 months. So I'm not really connecting the dots here as far as why you haven't done anything up until now, and also why, if you are, you're going to absolutely do something right now.
Yeah. Good question. I mean, over the last 3 months, it gradually kind of like came as far as not being open with me. And I guess I didn't feel like it was something serious and that something is actually happening. But then, like I said, 2 weeks ago, she started like kind of like hiding things away from me. And, I was asking her questions about, what is she actually doing? And she was kind of like running away from it and not answering. And I was like, yeah,
Hmm.
man, I need to do something about it. And so I started thinking, how can I change that? And I was thinking about, the job is very consuming for me and I need to change the career. So, I started looking online, saw you guys and booked in this call.
Hmm. Okay. So up until 2 weeks ago, you hadn't had any kind of visceral experience to realize how bad this was. But 2 weeks ago, you started asking your wife if she was hiding anything and she was avoiding the question. And that has now been a turning point for you.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
When you asked her, you know, are you hiding anything? What actually happened?
Yeah, I came up to her and I was like actually curious. I was like, hey, I noticed that when I come back home from work, I don't really have the energy, and I see guys who are like in your rooms and I know what the kids are doing. Like, well, what do you typically do just for me to know because, I care about you. And she was like, oh yeah, nothing. I was like, nothing? What do you mean? And then she was like, kind of like, I don't know, hiding things away as far as like, oh yeah, I'm just chatting with my friends, stuff like that. But I can see that it's not actually what's happening.
And what did she say?
What did I say?
No, what did she say when you said that?
When I said what? What do you mean?
When you said I can see things aren't what you say they are. What did she then say?
Oh,
Or what
yeah,
then
I
happened?
didn't actually say that to her.
Oh, you didn't say that to her.
No, I was just thinking that in my head, and then I started looking at solutions on what I can change.
Why did you not say it to her out loud if that's what you feel?
Um, I mean, to be honest, when I was just a pussy, like I, I should have done that because I care about her, and I know that's what will get me to clarity on I need to make a change. What is she feeling? But I was just not willing to do it.
Hmm. Just to play devil's advocate here, and I'm sorry
Mhm.
to be blunt, but I
Sure.
would be irresponsible to not say it. What if
Yeah.
the thing that your wife is hiding is that she's got someone else, and therefore it would essentially be a waste of time for you to even consider changing roles because maybe the relationship is already done and dusted. What about if that's the case?
So the relationship is a big part of it, obviously, but I want to do it for myself as well. Like, I just don't feel like I can keep going like that mentally, physically. I want to take care of myself. I want to be more with my kids. And even if the relationship is over, which I don't believe it is, but even if it is, I will still have my kids.
Right. Why has this now become something you want to do for yourself when for the last 2 years you were waiting for someone or something outside of you to show you that this was quote unquote serious enough? Why now do you want to do this for yourself? Because that's a big shift.
Yeah. You know, my friends that I'm hanging out with are just saying like, you're not as you used to be as far as my physical shape and as far as my energy and stuff like that, and I just want to reclaim myself.
Okay. So if I'm understanding this correctly, because of your job and the fact that it's so many hours, the commuting, you don't have freedom, you don't have the ability to work from home. If I'm understanding this correctly, it's affecting the way that your friends are talking to you and viewing you. It's affecting whatever your wife is now hiding and the impact that that's having on your relationship. It's affecting your kids. It's affecting you feeling like you've lost yourself and you need to reclaim yourself. So if I'm getting this correctly, it sounds like because of your job, with all due respect, every area of your life is kind of falling apart.
Yeah.
Is that accurate or am I over exaggerating?
No, that's totally accurate. Yeah, I mean, I haven't gone so deep into that so far, but now I see that it affects everything.
And so, if I'm also getting this correctly, the reason that your life is falling apart in every way, shape, or form is that for the last 2 years, maybe longer, you haven't really seen how serious all of this was and weren't really doing things for yourself, such as getting into the right job that would allow you to essentially fix all of these things. And the only thing that's kind of woken the bear, so to speak, is your wife is now hiding things from you. And you're now realizing that potentially every part of your life is starting to crumble.
Yeah, I mean, not potentially like it is already,
Okay.
you know? Yeah.
Do you feel like you have the strength, given that everything's kind of falling apart, to actually invest in yourself, time, money, effort? Because some people,
Yeah.
when everything's falling apart, they're just done and dusted.
Yeah, for sure. I'm always I'm always been the guy that was taking the bad things into motivation. And yeah, I feel like I can take all of these things to motivate myself to actually make a change. And I just don't want to let things fall apart even more from what it is right now, because maybe I can save some things.
Yeah. I mean, if you try, possibly you
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
So, why, if you do you feel like, in regards to saving some things, that you need outside help rather than just go and try and find this job on your own?
Yeah, man, I'm totally clueless in that. Like, the last job that I got was like my friend kind of hooked me up with them,
Okay.
but he doesn't have any other opportunities. I already talked to him, and I've been trying to l- get interviews and stuff like that, but I never get one. And I saw you guys, and I've seen your guys' testimonials, and yeah, I think you guys can definitely help me.
Okay. And the other question I have is, there's a lot of different things you could do that might give you the freedom, that might give you the ability to work from home. Why a CSM role?
Yeah, I mean, I have a friend that's doing that, and he's working like 6 hours a day, something crazy, and
Right.
he made like 20K last month.
Yep.
And when you're working with a good company, I feel like that can fit me very well.
Okay. The only other thing we didn't really touch on as much as your wife, and I want to make sure that we haven't missed the ball here, is what's going on with your kids?
They're just they want to do things kids want to do,
Right.
and they're still young, and I'm just not being able to provide it for them. So, they ask me, hey, can we go to watch a movie? Can we go
Right.
to the park? Can we do something fun?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just not able to do it with them
Why?
because of the job, because I'm coming back home and I don't have the energy. And yeah, I mean, I just don't want to do it after a long day of work.
Okay. Have you noticed any changes in your kids because of the lack of time and effort that they're seeing from you?
Not sure if that's what you're asking, but yeah, I mean, sometimes they are, I feel like they're not coming to ask for me anymore because they
Mm,
assume that I won't do that.
okay. And is that a problem?
It is a problem because I want my kids to come to me and ask for whatever they want and not be afraid and think like, oh, maybe, father will not be able to do it, or definitely won't be able to do it.
Right. Okay. So to clarify this, your friends are saying that you're not yourself. You know that you've lost yourself and you need to reclaim yourself. Your wife is not spending time with you and is instead hiding whatever it is that she could or couldn't be doing. And your kids are afraid of coming to ask you to spend time with them. And this is all because of the job that you haven't done anything about getting out of for the last 2 years. All of this is connected. Is that accurate?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So, given that we've kind of clarified all of this, where are you at with this situation?
Yeah, I need to change right now.
Okay. And you feel that a CSM role, or how do you feel about a CSM role in regards to solving all of these problems? I know you mentioned your friends doing it, they're making better money than you. How certain are you that if you land a CSM role with our help, that you'll be able to save some of these things, if not, hopefully, as many of them as possible?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, because I've seen your guys' testimonials, I like pretty much everybody are making more money than I do. Like I don't even make great money right now. And just being able to work from home and work less hours, then I feel like that would be perfect.
Okay. Is
Yeah.
there anything else we haven't covered? Maybe to do with your friends, your wife, your kids, yourself, the CSM being the solution? Is there anything we haven't covered?
No, man, I think we gone super deep on everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you feel? Because like you said, we've had a deep conversation. You've admitted some tough things to admit, some tough pills to swallow. How do you feel right now?
I mean, I feel like shit because it's all given the fact that I wasn't aware or was afraid to ask my wife what's actually happening over
Right.
the last 2 years, and I made them go through that experience and made my wife potentially look into other people while I know she loves me, but I can't give her what she's wanting to. So
You
yeah, I don't
can't,
feel good
hang on, let me just clarify that. You can't give her? Is that accurate?
because I haven't done the necessary steps to give her what she's wanting.
I see. I see. So you can't do it because you've chosen to not do other things that would
Yeah,
allow you to do it.
yeah, exactly.
Okay. What choice do you want to make now?
Yeah, man, I want to change now.
Okay. You said you feel pretty shit about the situation. Do you want some time to reflect on this, or where do you want to go from here?
No, I feel like the more time I take, the worse things can get.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
Well, what I mean is that if I take a day or two to just reflect about it, I will keep going to this job that I don't like. And, maybe things with the wife can get worse. So I just want to change it as soon as possible.
So to be clear, if we get you into a CSM role, your situation with reclaiming yourself in terms of your friends, your wife, your kids, that will all be a possibility for you. And even though you feel shit about this situation that you've chosen to not give your wife what she needs, or your kids, or yourself, regardless of how shit you feel, you you want to do everything in your power to make a change on this right now today.
Right. Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm definitely clear on everything. Just to ask one more time, is there anything else that we haven't covered? Because there's a lot of different things here. Is there anything else?
No, I think that's everything.
Okay, cool. We can definitely help get you into a CSM role based on the fact you're taking responsibility, based on the fact that you have a friend that is already doing that role. You know it works. You know it can give you what you need in terms of pay, working from home, freedom. I'm clear on why you need to do this. Literally, there's things that you're losing that you have the opportunity to save right now if you don't delay the decision to do what you need to do. If you'd like, I can essentially walk you through A through to Z all of the different things that we can give you on our end so that you know step by step exactly what you need to do to save these different parts of your life that are currently about to be lost.
Yeah, please.
Okay, cool. All right, folks, pretty much what we would do. Now, it would be a little bit quicker. It's harder for me to role play when I'm jumping into a previous part of a role play because I'm trying to kind of catch up with what's already been happening. I don't know how long that was. It was probably, I'm going to take a wild guess at about 40 minutes, maybe. I'm not exactly sure, 30, 40 minutes. So let's go through questions and takeaways. I'll start with Zion and I'll then go with Daniel. And so while we're going through Zion and Daniel, think about your questions or takeaways, guys, and then we'll go through them. Zion, takeaways from you.
I mean, I think it's important to see just the different ways that a conversation can go. Just from earlier on, it went into more so like the Sundays, time with the kids, based on just small, very small tweaks in the way Daniel answered some questions. It went down a whole different path. And even understanding and noticing the use of words like the we with like, specifying that. You just have to be very, very precise. And it just comes down to presence and the state, right? And understanding those things. I also had a big takeaway, almost like a light bulb moment when at the very end, after having all of the effects, all of the data, now the summary is coming back to the cause, the job, right?
100%.
Because that's why he's here, right? To leave the job and just tying down. And then just even asking him like, okay, well, it sounds like it was an emotional thing, as you said, like, do you want some time to like just register that? No one is going to do that, but it's authentic, it's real, and it almost just builds a trust, like, I mean, way more, right? So, yeah, no, it was huge for me. I'm definitely going to watch this one back a ton.
Beautiful. Yeah, that bit at the end, guys, as far as like you said, you feel like shit. Do you want to process this? And we can circle back later. That's because it's always got to be the prospect's decision, guys. Like, I'm not going to box them in the corner. Okay, you've told me your life is falling apart. Here, I'm going to pitch you. You're going to buy. You're going to give me your credit card. This is what you need to do. All that's doing is
Right.
disempowering the prospect, guys. Empowering the prospect is, okay, you feel like shit. What do you want to do? Well, yeah, I do feel like shit, but I want to fix this. Okay, why? And the reason that the prospect's selling themselves and buying into what you want them to buy into is because if you actually empower people, you'll be surprised how many people have the power inside of them. When you try and take people's power away, you find that people are just soft and like, mush, and they just fall apart. But that's actually something that you're creating because you're treating them like an imbecile. So then they're going to start behaving like an imbecile. Whereas when you're just like, okay, well, what do you want to do? Most people, even the average person on the street, is way more powerful than you think they are. They can take responsibility, they can make smart decisions, they can do the right thing. The reason that most prospects at the end of a call say, I need to think about it, it's a lot of money, I need to ask my wife, all of those objections all spiral back to the prospect feels like an imbecile and they don't feel empowered. And that's because the way most people run a discovery is literally walking all over your prospects like they're stupid, boxing them into different questions and doing all this gay tonality. I shouldn't say that on YouTube. Fuck. Doing all this tonality stuff as far as like saying certain things in a certain way, and then the prospects just think they're an idiot. So we have to cut that out.
Also, some something on that as well. They said it in the chat. I was looking. There was a moment where we were almost gonna fall into apathy, but you ask him an empowering question.
Yep.
That was also, it was just a quick like boom, emotions back up, and then even just bringing up the kids, like I feel like most of us would be like, it's too late to go back into the kids or something like that.
Yep.
But just to see it done, I mean, it's at a point where I mean, it doesn't really matter. Like it's just the trust is there at that point. You could just talk about anything. So yeah, no, it was great.
Who when I went back into the kids, who had the feeling that that was like by accident? In other words, like, oh, Josh like just remembered that he needs to go back into the kids. Did anybody
I
get a
did.
feeling of that? You said you did, Zion.
Yeah, I thought you were just gonna be
Good.
like, all right, well, we're talking about the wife now, so I guess
Good.
done with the
Because
kids.
it was by accident, guys. And what I mean by accident is I just looked at my notes and was like, oh shit, I forgot something. I better go back there. And the reason I'm sharing that, guys, is like it's not supposed to be perfect and like I knew exactly where I was going and I knew I was going to come back to the kids. No, I'm just so present that when I look back at my notes, I was like, I don't really feel like we talked enough about the kids stuff. So I'm just going to go back into that. I don't have an agenda, guys. Like I'm not worried about looking like a fool and being like, oh, actually, I was about to roll into the stuff that we've got going on over here, but I actually want to talk about something else. Can we do that? Okay, cool. Because a lot of you trip over your own feet because you're like, oh, that doesn't sound professional enough or perfect enough. The most professional and perfect thing you can do, guys, is be real, which is ironically what I just did on the YouTube video. So, all right, let's go into takeaways and questions, folks. Oh, sorry,
I
Daniel.
have.
Sorry, Daniel.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll do yours.
that was insane. Like so good being the prospect. Like I felt like I was genuinely being like cooked right now. But the main thing for me, so a couple of things. First of all, was that you were tying down everything. So wife, kids, friends, and myself, and making sure there is no possible things that you are missing. So just covered everything. Now, something that was awesome at the end, you were kind of like unselling me as far as
Yep.
like, are you sure CSM role is, what you're looking for? Maybe you need time to think about it, but the level of depth you got with me on every single thing in my life was not giving me an option to think about it or make any stupid objections. So that was awesome to see.
Awesome. All right, Chris was asking, are you supposed to raise your hands or just jump in? Put your hands up, guys, and I'll go through them in the attendees box. All right, so let's
The
start with
camera
Jerry.
as well. Beautiful touch with the notes. I think, did you get that because of like just Jay's role play, just so we could see the notes?
No, I'd been wanting something that was going to allow you guys to see how I take notes because I think it's something that we don't talk about enough in the mastermind because I can't really show it. So I've not really tried talking about it because it's hard to articulate it rather than just show you. But I don't think I could do what I do on a discovery without a blank sheet of paper in front of me. I'd be so lost. I'd be so confused. I'd be like, well, where the fuck are we? So a huge piece, like I would say, this blank sheet of paper, which it's not blank anymore, but a blank sheet of paper plus your pre-call checklist are your two most powerful tools. And all this one is a blank sheet of paper and a pen. And that is like so powerful to just have a sheet of paper in front of you and to just be keeping track of little notes and drawing things out. Like you're an artist. You're hearing the conversation, you're trying to diagnose everything. And I don't think I could do what I do without a piece of paper in front of me. So I wanted to find a way that I could show it more. And I've just been looking for cameras that can, like, this is on like a little electric motor and I can like click a button and it will move down. And I've just been trying to find a good one and finally got one. So
yeah, like when I take notes, typically I just take like a blank sheet of paper and line by line. But the way you've done it is you write like a simple word and you're kind of like circling back to everything.
yeah.
And it's so much easier to just remember everything and kind of like circle back to things and like tying things together.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not
Checking them off, like,
linear, guys.
As you summarize, it's like, okay, so this you're checking. Like, it's like it was good to see. It was just good to see. It's not just taking notes, but it's also checking things off in your own mind as you're speaking as well. It's a whole thing.
It's not being what do they call it? In meetings, guys, they have someone that writes minutes. And what minutes means is they're literally writing line by line, like everything important that someone says. Your note taking is not writing minutes, guys. Your note taking is what you would more call organization. In other words, I'm like taking things and I'm putting them down on the piece of paper and moving them around and drawing lines between them. I'm organizing things in my brain as opposed to minute by minute taking lines of notes. Does that make sense? Like if you look at the transcript on Zoom, you'll have every line as a transcript. Well, that's not how you're actually taking the notes. It's not linear or logically. It's just organizing things around. Like I've got a cupboard over here in my other room, and I've got all sorts of different supplements. And sometimes I'll go into that cupboard and I'll take all the supplements off the shelves and put them into different places just to try and have a more structured order. That's kind of what you're doing with the situation of the prospect. You're taking all the different pieces and try reorganizing them into ways where you go, oh, actually, I like that. That is logical. It makes sense. I can see it visually. I can feel it emotionally. That's what you're doing with all of the different pieces of the prospect situation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
Right. Beautiful. All right, let's get into these takeaways, guys. So at the moment, I can only see Jeremy and Chris, which is fine. But if anybody else has things they want to add, put your hand up in the Zoom box. So let's go with bringing up Jeremy first, and then we'll go to Chris. Interesting. So you say your hand's up. I can't. Oh, now I can see it. Okay, Daniel, Don, Jay, and Chris. That's who I've got. All right, Jeremy, what's going on?
Hey, first of all, great role play, guys. The main big takeaway I got from this was I already knew that questions were powerful: who, what, where, when, and why. But the how, like, how's that going? That was the mind-blowing takeaway from this call. So I appreciate that. So now I love how powerful that is and how open it is, and it's not leading. So that was my biggest takeaway from that. And so now I'm thinking about how can I ask more how questions. So thank you for that.
Guys, if you have more than one takeaway, that's absolutely fantastic. But if I were to advise you of how to take the training from these calls, it would be to listen to everything, but to find the one thing that you're like, oh, that would be the one thing for me, that if I implement that one thing, that will have a big shift. Because whilst you could implement everything and it will have even more of an effect, the likelihood that you execute and implement 7 things is very limited, as opposed to hierarchically, what's the 180-20 for me personally? So more than happy for you to share multiple takeaways, guys. But I'd say what Jeremy did there, which was, I've heard everything. I've got a number of different things that were good and they were useful. But for me personally, if I just took this one thing, that would be a big shift for me. That's a very good way to learn. So good example there, Jeremy.
Thank you. I like to think of it like your point about the biggest domino. when you're focusing on the dominoes, and I think it was Matt or Don that talked about it, how if every week in your business or in your sales career, you focus on this one big domino that needs to fall, that will cause other things to fall. And if you just do one thing a week and you just stack dominoes and chips on it, 52 things over the course of a year will make a tremendous amount of change in your results. So thank you.
Huge change. Absolutely. All right. I'll bring up Jay. So we've got Don, Daniel, and Chris left. All right, Jay, nice background. I like that.
Thank you.
Is that real? That is real, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, it's great.
Yeah, it is real. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, my biggest takeaway is number one, and then I have a question.
Sure.
You know, when you get to the end of the call and you're Farmer Jay, when you get to the end of the call and you're getting commitment and you ask, how does he feel? Oh, I feel like shit. Most of the time, when I feel like I've had a good call, we got deep into the pain, we started to get some ownership. Morgan, wow. When you start to think, okay, I've had a great performance, I've covered everything, and then you move into the pitch, and then you're like, I can't believe that call didn't close. I had such a great performance. Tom Brady in Super Bowl 52 had one of the greatest performances in Super Bowl history, and they still lost.
Right.
And it's like, it's never just going to be enough because you feel like you did great. Your performance doesn't matter if there's still things that get in the way of getting the win. So you can never get too comfortable with where you've gotten, and you can't let your pride get in the way of like, oh, I'm crushing this call right now, because nothing is set in stone. Like
100%.
It doesn't matter how much you do if you don't close. Right?
Exactly.
If all your calls are really good and you're reviewing them, but you're like, oh, look, my calls are good, but your close rate is down, doesn't matter. So that was a big takeaway for me. And then my question was, when Daniel is explaining how he feels about his wife and, you know, what she's doing, and I ask her, what are you doing, you know, on your phone? Oh, I'm doing nothing. I'm just texting, you know, some friends, nothing to worry about. And then Daniel responds with, I was like, that can't be true. There's no way that's all you're doing is doing nothing. And then you responded with, okay, how did she react when you said that to her? And he was like, oh, I didn't say that to her. Did you purposely ask him how did she react, knowing that he didn't say anything? Or were you genuinely like, because the way I was thinking about it is, usually when people are complaining about things or conversations or interactions they've had with people, and they're telling them, like, they're complaining about the thoughts they were thinking, like, the question is like, well, what did they react when you said that to them? And most of the time when people are complaining about something, they're not actually speaking their mind. They're not actually doing anything. So did you purposely check him on that to get him to say out loud, oh, I didn't actually say anything, like to get ownership out of that? Or was that also an accident? Is that clear?
If not quite, but I think I can unravel it. Are you asking, like, did I actually hear in advance that he said I didn't ask her and I just pretended I didn't hear that?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? No,
Yeah,
I didn't hear it. No, I didn't hear it.
Because when Daniel was explaining that, I didn't hear him say, I told that to her.
I think Josh,
neither did I. I didn't hear him say that. I just thought, okay, and I just assumed incorrectly that he meant that he was thinking that out loud and said to her. Now, the reason I asked the question, and this is very important because you can ask questions with an intention of what you might find, but if you don't find what you thought you might find, you can't push on it because then it's attachment and it's leading. So the reason I asked the question is I thought, I wonder if I ask him, like, how did she react? And he says, oh, she reacted really badly, blah, blah, blah. I could then say, well, how do you feel about the fact that she reacted badly? And I was considering that he might turn around and say, well, you know, I actually think it's fair that she reacted badly because the reason that we're in this situation is my own fault. But the conversation didn't go that way. So I have to just back off. And I'm like, okay, it didn't go the way I thought it might go. That's fine. He told me what was the truth. And then I just left it. I just thought it would be a good way to tie him down into ownership if it naturally happens. But you can't be trying to push the conversation in a certain way. Does that make sense?
It was
Jay?
also seamless that it didn't actually happen. You were just like, okay, cool. you know, and
Yeah,
just
I was
went
just
on
like,
to
all
the
right,
next
no
thing.
Really?
worries.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm not remembering it correctly, but yeah, I just remembered you asked that and you're like, I didn't say anything. And I remember you started challenging him a little bit on that. Don't hide the chain, Jay. Okay.
All
All
right,
right. Yeah.
let's jump into some more comments. Did you have anything else, Jay?
No.
Okay, cool. All right, let's go to Don. Pull up Dan. Sorry, Don, and then we'll go with Daniel. Then we got Chris, and then we got Passer. All right.
All right. Howdy,
What's up,
folks.
Don? Hey.
Good. Man, great. Zion, great job, brother. Daniel, amazing prospecting. And then, so a couple things. One, I felt like Zion, one of the things that I noticed when you were summarizing, you were saying, well, I understand this and I understand that. And I was just wondering if it would be better to just get into it and just say, okay, so this, is that accurate? What do you think about that, Josh?
Yeah, there'd kind of be three levels to it. Like the least powerful would be, you know, my opinion is, or I feel this, or whatever, because that's you're too attached to your own perspective of things. The middle ground would be, it sounds like. It sounds like this, and this. And the reason it sounds like it's good is because you're still leaving a little bit of wiggle room for maybe I misheard this or maybe I misunderstood this. The final layer or level could be it is this, it is this, it is this, it is this. Now, the problem is with that final example is if you do that in a way where your tonality is too commanding, some softer prospects might feel uncomfortable to be like, actually, can I change that? So the one in the middle is it's firm, it's not your opinion, but you're still saying, I feel like this is what it sounds like this is. Is that accurate? Yes. So I would always say it sounds like this. That would be my best version was, okay, so it sounds like you said this, you said this, you said this. Is that accurate? Yes. And
Got it.
almost always on my summaries, I'm clarifying. Is that accurate? Did I get that wrong? No. Okay, cool. Because again, it's like the rock climber. I always use the rock climber analogy. If the rock climber is climbing up the wall face and he hammers in the little thing that means if he falls, he's only going to fall so far. Once he's hammered that thing in, they always grab the rope and they pull it. And they're like, is this locked in? Because otherwise, you've hammered something in the wall, you climb further up, and then you fall, and the whole pin that you've put in the wall just pulls out the wall. And you're like, oh shit, I thought that was secure. So you hammer the pin in, which is describing the summary. And then when you say, is that accurate? You're pulling on it and you're checking that it's actually firm. Because if they say no, then that would be like pulling on it and going, oh shit, this was not stuck in there very well. It's actually wobbly. I better do it again. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
Got it.
Great.
And then I noticed with your notes, you usually start taking with your notes along the right edge of the paper. So I'm wondering, is there a reason for that?
I think it's habitual because if any of you have heard my full, slightly more detailed explanation of taking notes, if I put this back on, the only annoying thing with this is it doesn't zoom straight in. So I have to reset it back up. Hang on. So we've got, let me zoom in on this. All right, so if I pull that. So normally when I take a call on the top left, I'll put the prospect's name. So I would do their name. I would do their age. I don't know your age. I'm just going to put 35. I would do their location. I also don't know where you live, but I'll put Florida. And then I might put like 2 or 3 little bullet points from the application if they're things that I might need to cover. And so on the top left, I'd have my little kind of, this is the prospect. So I think naturally I just always gravitate to this side of the
I
paper
see.
because there would be something up here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So that's
And
the
then
only reason.
Jay mentioned this earlier. So there was a time where it was right after, I guess, the wife thing, and you said something like, well, you said basically kind of like the stuff's a mess right now. Like, so like, why would you even like think about doing something like this now? Like if it, like even like let's say if the relationship is kind of over, if it's too late, why would you even think about doing stuff like this? And of course the chat lit up like, okay, empowerment, he's empowering him. And I thought of it like you were kind of heading off the objection of, you get to the end and it's like, well, the stuff's a mess. There's a lot going on right now. I can't really make a decision. Was there any of that to it, or was it just you seeing, I mean, or was it just empowerment? How do you see, how were you thinking about it in your brain?
I view them both as the same thing because someone having an objection is disempowering. someone not having any objections or alternatives and locking them in on this is the one path, that, in my opinion, is empowering. The thing that is disempowering is where people have option 1, option 2, option 3, option 4, option 5. That's super disempowering. People have always said, the person that has too many options doesn't make any decision. So I view it as empowering, being like, okay, we could roll into these details. We could roll into the pitch. We could roll into the price. But what if your relationship's already toast? Well, regardless of that, I still want to do this. Okay, why? Like, he needs to tell me this is my one path and this is my one decision, because otherwise it's not that I'm going to waste my time pitching, although that's a secondary thing. It's you're going to get to the end of my pitch and you're still going to have 3 options and be confused and be indecisive, which is not useful for you as a prospect. So I kind of view them as the same thing.
Got it. Perfect. And then this is the last one. This is my huge takeaway was, and Zion mentioned it, assumption. I noticed that they will say something about their life or whatever, and then I feel like I know what they mean, and then I don't get them to paint that picture of, and when you did that, I was like, oh my goodness. I mean, he's like, oh, well, I'm in my room and then they're doing this. And then it just brings them right into the pain and everything. Whereas I'm like, oh, well, I got their pain. They feel like, they're not spending family time. So I just move on and I think I have the pain, but I really don't. I didn't get them to paint that picture and really associate with it, as you say. So that was huge for me.
Even just the simple one of they're in their room. Who's in their room? Well, my wife and my kids. Okay, wait, you're in one room in the house, your wife's in another room and your kids are in another room. Is that how your house looks like right now? Like, and I'm always viewing things through images. Maybe it's because, that's how my brain works, but I think it should be how most of you view things. And so when I saw that in my head, I'll use the, in fact, I can probably just draw on the board here. When I saw that in my head, this is how I viewed it. Have any of you ever seen something like this, where this is one of those doll's houses where, looking from the front of the doll's house, you can actually see inside the doll's house? Any of you ever seen one of those? Got like a door like this, and that's like the windows, but like the doll's house is open. And so the image I had in my head was, there's the couch down here and there's Daniel sitting on the couch. There's the wife up here in this room and there's the kids over here in this room. And I was like, is that actually what your household looks like? Like, how sad, like how depressing to have a house like that, as opposed to, the family are all down here. Even if you're all just watching TV, you're all sat there, the kids are on the floor, playing with their little toy truck, and you're a family unit in the house. So in my head, I saw it like this, and I was like, let me just clarify that you're seeing the same image that I'm seeing. Your wife is in this room, your kids are in this room, and you're in this room. Is that accurate? Yes. And potentially, you can tell me, Daniel, yes or no. When I asked you to clarify that, you may have had this image now in your head where you're like, yes, wife in one room, kids in another room, I'm in another room. And you start seeing it the way that we're both now seeing it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because the prospect is just he's like looking at the TV, watching Netflix. He's not actually thinking, okay, they do that, she's doing that, he's doing that.
Yep. Yeah, he's kind of just viewing it as binary, like I'm watching Netflix and they're doing something else. Well,
Exactly.
sure, that's like a low resolution version of the image, but who's doing what and where are they? Well, my wife is in this room up here and my kids are in this room down here and I'm in this room down here. It's much more high resolution, the image. Does that make sense,
Visible
Don?
for him.
It does. 100%.
Yeah.
100%. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Anything else from you? No? Okay. All right. Daniel G.
Hey guys.
All right.
How you doing?
What's going on?
All good. So, well, I had the biggest takeaway is I noticed I do that too. It's a way Zion asked the question very early on the call, where in spite of using open-ended questions, he was leading.
Yep.
And I was like, wow, that was a light bulb moment for me, because it all connects together. I see myself doing that. After I saw him doing that, I was like, do I do that? And yes, I do. And the way I'll explain it is I wrote it down, the specific example. It was a time when Daniel said that he was working too much. Zion was gathering data. How many hours? 10 hours a day? Is that 6 times a week? It was like around 6 times. Okay. And then he said, well, what things are you missing because you're working 60 hours a week? And it's obvious that you're missing shit when you're 60 hours into something a week. But Daniel never mentioned missing on anything yet.
Exactly.
He ended up way later on the call saying I'm missing a lot of stuff, but it was leading because he could have gone the way of saying, if he asked, okay, and what is it about 60 hours a week that is, what was the problem with that? He could have said, my body aches, I'm not sleeping, I'm going crazy, or I'm missing on several things. But he didn't allow Daniel to go for what is really the problem. So I guess at that moment when I do that, what I'm doing is I'm basically playing roulette to see if I land the real issue. And it's just not effective. It's just like, if you're not only open-ended, but open-ended without leading, it's going to save a lot of time, a lot of time.
Yeah.
So that was my biggest take. The other one is just,
That's, in my opinion, probably the biggest one, guys, because I want you to imagine at the end of a good call, or the end of a call that you thought was a good call, you look at the transcript. So it doesn't close. So after it doesn't close, you're looking back at the transcript. And as you're looking through the transcript to this call, you're seeing all of these words that are pain about this, pain about that, problem about this, problem about that. And you're like, the transcript looks great. Like, this prospect's telling me all of these pain points. Yes, but they're all pain points that you got them to say by putting the words in their mouth. So if you look at the transcript, you're like, this is a fucking gold mine. This is amazing. I've got all these pain points. Yes, but you kind of led them to all of those things. And what's the two things you need on a sales call, guys? Pain. And what's the other thing that you need?
Ownership.
Ownership. All of the pain that comes from words that you put in their mouth is actually at a disproportionate level to ownership. In other words, you put all those words in their mouth and the ownership came all the way back down in direct proportion to the words that you put in their mouth. And if I draw it on the whiteboard, what's fascinating is you could actually have two calls. So this is, one of these lines is pain and one of these lines is ownership, right? You could have the pain go very, very high and the ownership go very, very low. And the reason that the pain went so high is because you got them to say all these very descriptive words about, I'm suffocating, I can't breathe at work, my wife is dying, not literally, but metaphorically, and all of these like very, very descriptive words. And so when you look at the transcript, what you're seeing on the transcript is all of this pain. What's interesting is you could actually have had a call that had much, much, much less pain like this. So this line is obviously much, much lower than this line here, but the ownership was at the same level because you got them to say those things through open-ended questions. And so it's much more important to realize it's the combined height of both of these points that matters more than just the point of how high is the pain. Because if this is really high, but this is really low, you're not going to close someone. You're better to get someone to tell you a 7 out of 10 pain point that they told you, and therefore it comes with ownership as well, than a 10 out of 10 pain point that you put in their mouth, that you put the words in their mouth. A 7 out of 10 will absolutely close a deal if you have pain and ownership. A 10 out of 10 that you're kind of leading the conversation. Because you're leading the conversation, you're losing the ownership and you're also losing trust. Does that make sense, guys?
100%.
Okay.
That's exactly my takeaway.
And this is why sometimes when you listen, sorry, Daniel, say what you said again.
I was just talking to myself because that's what has been missing, because I do that a lot. I ask open-ended questions, but I lead too much.
Yep.
Like, buy a fucking hammer and talk to myself when I do that right on the call.
This is why when you listen to some of my old calls, guys, you're like, oh, it's not an insane amount of pain. No, it's not an insane amount of pain, but it was all coming out of the prospect's mouth. It was all open-ended, open-ended, open-ended. You tell me what's going on. Okay, well, what do you mean by that? Okay, well, what happened? When did that happen? How did that happen? And so it's like there's so much naturalness and reality and authenticity to the conversation that is carrying a lot of the close, the fact that the call closes, as opposed to you trying to bury the prospect in pain, but you're trying so hard to push it that you actually don't close the deal.
From your
So long-
calls, Josh, it's like
Yeah.
at the end of the call, what I was thinking is like, it just makes sense for them to buy. It just makes sense. That's what they should do. It was obvious.
Yep. It should make sense more than it should be they're buried into a corner and they're like, oh, I've just been told to say things that I didn't really want to say. Well, no matter how much they're telling you their life sucks, they're not going to do anything. Like, how many people do you know, guys, in your own life, friends, family members, that are constantly saying how bad things are? I hate my job. It's killing me. It's the worst thing in the world. And they tell you all of these very visceral pain points, but they don't do anything about it. And yet you have other people that say, you know, my job's pretty good. I've got a lot of things that I like about it, but I want to change my job. And their pain that you hear them describing is a lot less than the people that are just viscerally complaining. But this person actually has come to their own conclusion and has come with ownership, and they go and change their situation, as opposed to this person's just whinging and moaning and complaining, but they're not actually doing anything about it. So you got to view that in your prospects. Like, you could have two calls and you're listening to one where you're like, holy shit, this closer's got this person into so much pain. They're getting them to say all of these things about how they're bleeding out, and it doesn't close. And then there's this closer that's got the prospect to say, yeah, it really sucks. You know, I've got some good things in my job, but the thing that I really don't like is blank. And if you listen to them like energetically, and you also look at the words on the transcript, the one that you think would close more would be this one. But it's actually this one that closes, because this one is more natural, and it's more of a collaborative conversation with the prospect, as opposed to me versus you just bashing you into a corner. Well, then that person won't buy, because people don't like giving their credit card at the end of a call and giving you $16,000 to someone that's made them be boxed into a corner. They'll actually give their credit card to someone that's been more collaborative with them. Okay. All right. Let's see what else we've got. We've got Chris and then Pastor. So let's go with Chris. I can't see Chris. Can anybody else see Chris?
Yeah, I can see him as well.
I can't. It's still loading for some reason. Interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
Just do the audio. It's fine.
Yeah. So this was actually a really fun exercise, taking the 4 takeaways and chunking them down to what's that one that's going to move the needle the most.
Yeah.
And it was a game time decision, but it came up. I'm upgrading my pre-call checklist to be a congruent tack. So it's not just sharp as a tack, be a congruent tack. And the example you gave, and I tend to do this, is some bad habits. So when Zion said, got it, and you're like, wait, do you actually got it? And he was incongruent. It's like, wait a second, I just recognize some of the bad habits I'm exhibiting on my calls. And we're training our prospects to not being congruent. And it's like a tennis line fault. And that was amazing. So congruent tact, I'm upgrading my pre-call checklist, and you just got to be just wide eye and just as present as possible, and really give yourself time to process what the hell they're saying. And if it doesn't make sense, do not move on. And so that added a lot of energy to me too as well. Be a congruent tack.
I love that.
Yeah.
I've got one bit of that I might slightly disagree with. So I'll discuss it and tell me how you feel, Chris, which is the point you said about being congruent. Absolutely. 100% on the ball. Agree with that. But the bit you said about the bit that you implied that it might take more processing time or more processing power to be congruent. Yes, if you're trying to compensate for not being real, not being authentic. In other words, if you're just having a normal conversation with a normal human being and you don't got it, you would just say, I don't get it. There's no additional processing time. In fact, it's less processing time, because you're like, I don't get it. Whereas it's only more processing time if you're like, I'm in a sales call. I think I need to tell them I got it. But actually I don't got it. So fuck, what do I do? Do I say I got it? Do I say I don't got it? And then now you're in this whole like mental loop of like, what the fuck do I do? And there's all this extra processing that needs to happen. Whereas if your only concern is, I'm just going to speak how I feel on the sales call, I'm going to show up in a state, which is, if I got it, I'm going to say got it. If I think it makes sense, I'll say it makes sense. If I don't think it makes sense, I'll say, sorry, Chris, I don't get that. That doesn't make sense. So the only bit I didn't agree with was like, it should actually be easier to do this with less processing power if you're just showing up as being natural. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you. May I have another?
Go for it.
Yeah,
Please do. Absolutely.
No, as far as the feedback, yeah, that makes a lot of sense because if you're searching in your head for something to say, you're not being congruent. You're actually being fake, right? Whatever your natural reaction is, let it out. That's the real thing. Okay. I think I muddied the water as far as trying to understand versus my just immediate visceral reaction. Yeah, so just be real. Just, all right, whatever I think, boom, be as sharp as a tack. Yeah,
100%.
perfect. And one last thing,
Sure.
the note taking is amazing. That
Good.
camera, like, it's money. I think we all appreciate that. The more we can see of your process, and get into your mind. And the other takeaway was just I need to be more concise with my note taking.
Yeah.
And then one more question.
Sure.
If something doesn't make sense to you, do you have a certain notation that you use? Because I saw check marks. I'm assuming like you check that off. Is there anything you use like frameworks? This doesn't make sense. I need to get clarification on that.
I might circle it, which means I need to come back to it. But circle it could mean this is a big deal, or it could mean I don't get it. So there's not one notation for one meaning. There's just certain notations. And it's kind of like I said before, they're my notes. So when I look at the circle, I'm like, I know that meant I got it. Or I look at the circle, I'm like, I remember that means I don't got it. And I'm confused. So it's more just drawing your attention to things as opposed to what does that attention mean? Because otherwise you'd have to have 35 different symbols for all of the different things that you're trying to remember annotating. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
You're very welcome. So I might circle it, or I would potentially just put a question mark next to something.
By the way, showing off
Love
my new ink
Beautiful.
pen.
Love
Yeah,
that.
dip it in ink like Ben Franklin.
Amazing. Very, very cool.
Thank you,
All right.
Josh. Amazing. Thanks.
My pleasure.
Great role play, you guys, too.
100%. All right, we've got Passer next, and then we got Nikhil. Guys, if anybody else has any points or questions, please put your hand up. We're coming to the end.
Oh. So, whoa. So I have a question, Josh.
Sure.
As far as things not making sense, I just had a call with this guy. He got laid off last month, and he started the AI agency, and he wants to get into e-commerce at the same time to have like 2 businesses.
Yep.
And I was watching the training in Scriptless too, where you said like, how do successful people think? And it just didn't make sense to me. Like, dude, you started a 1 business, it's not making any money. Why do you want to have 2 streams of income? And I kept telling that to him. He's like, yeah, but I just want to do both. They're not correlated. I'm like, yeah, but why not just put all of your focus in one thing, make money from that? Then maybe you can diversify your income. First, have an income. So, but I didn't want to play God to him. So we still rescheduled. But like in my head, I'm like, should I just DQ this guy or unsell this guy? Because like, why would he start an e-com if he has an agency that he just started last month? But I don't want to play God for that guy. But it doesn't make sense to me. So what should I, and I told him like 10 times. I'm like, dude, it doesn't make sense, like in different ways.
So the main thing that I'm hearing is you saying that you tried to tell him. That's probably where you're going wrong, because telling them is very rarely going to work. So this is a no-go. There's 2 options that are a go. What are those 2 options, guys? Telling them is not the right answer.
Ask them.
No, not ask them.
Get them to come to the conclusion themselves by questions.
Correct. And what are the questions getting you that's going to get you the outcome you want?
Information.
Correct.
Data.
Data. info tells them. Okay, so that's a yes. What's the third option? Option 1, which is a no-go, is I'm going to tell you how it is. Option 2 is the data is going to show you how it is. Option 3 is
They tell me. No.
the mirror.
Kind of like
the mirror or show would be this one, Martin. The third one is we could just call it the unsell. Okay. The third one is you're not trying to tell how it is and get them to meet you at your destination. You're like, this is the destination I'm going to, or this is where I'm going to hang out. It is what it is. Take it or leave it. Take it or leave it. In other words, I'm going to stand over here and you can come to me or not, but I'm not going to move over to you. This is frame control, guys. There's you, closer, and there's this person, the prospect. Okay? It is the prospect's job to move to you, not your job to move to the prospect. Do not do that. Okay? Now, how can the prospect move to you? If you try and go all the way over here and try and grab the prospect and bring them all the way back, they're not going to do it because they don't like having their life choices taken away from you. So you can't do that. That's not going to work. Okay? So what can you do? You send questions over to the prospect, and as the data gets laid out for them, it's like these stepping stones that allow them to see that they could step over here and meet you where you're at, which is the data. The data is the stepping stones. You're putting the stepping stones down for them to traverse, as opposed to you going and picking them up and carrying them over here. That's not going to work. Okay? But the third option is you send your questions over, okay? And therefore the data can show them, and they take one step, or maybe they don't take a single step, and they say, nope, I don't want to go past here. Do not go and meet them. So as the closer, don't go and step on the stepping stones to try and meet them where they're at. Don't do that, because that's downplaying your boundaries and your frame and your this is how it is. You stand over here and you say, okay, cool. You want to stay over here. I'm going to stay over here. We have this big gap between us. Sounds great. Wish you all the best. I'm getting off the call and going this way. Okay, so option 1 is, well, your 3 options are tell them, which is not going to work. Get the data to show them, which will work most of the time. Or tell them, if we're not in alignment, that's totally fine. This is not going to be a fit. Okay, so now let's get into the specifics with your question parser. So you said, the guy said, you know, I've got a brand new business and I want to start another business. Okay, so you would ask him data-based questions, probably on 2 different categories. What has his life been like up until now as far as accomplishing the general goals that he has? Making more money, having more freedom, living where he wants to live, all of those different things. And the data will show him failure, 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 failure in all of those general areas. Then you would probably ask him questions about this brand new business. When did you start the business? 6 months ago. Okay, how much money did you make yesterday? $0. Okay, how many hours did you put into the business this week? 40 hours. Okay, so all of this data is showing you failure, failure, failure. Okay, now once you've got all this data on his track record of failure, you need to ask him what question, guys? Put in the chat.
How much
What's
longer?
what's that?
How much longer?
Nope. Before that, what question would we ask this person based on this data to see where his
Why do
opinion
you
is?
think it's happening?
Correct. Why do you think that is? So you've wanted to accomplish blank for 5 years. You set up this business a year ago. You've put in 40 hours a week over the last 6 months, which is 160 times by 6 is, you know, 960 hours, something like that. You haven't got what you wanted. Why do you think that is? Now, when he says, why does he think that is? You are looking for if your belief of why that is aligned with his belief of why that is. In other words, his belief needs to meet you where you're at. If it doesn't, then you ask more clarifying questions. Okay, why do you say that? Okay. And then if you really don't agree, you have to put an unsell down and you say, okay, well, I personally don't see how blank, blank, blank excuse is the reason that you haven't accomplished this, because you've put in 1,000 hours. It seems like the reason that you have, or it seems to us, well, in fact, the way you'd phrase it is, the people that we enroll in this program, the reasons that they believe they haven't had success are they haven't had a mentor or a plan. They have been focused on multiple different things, and therefore the amount of effort that they've put into this one thing has not been enough because it's been spread out, or they haven't been doing it for a long enough period of time. It's not time for you because you've been doing it for 6 months. It's that you haven't had a mentor, or that you have been spreading your time across multiple different things. That is the opinion of the clients that we enroll into this program. If you're not of those same opinions, that the reason you haven't had success is not one of these two things, then we are not aligned. And that is your unsell. Does that make sense?
After
Parsa?
the data.
After
Yeah,
the data.
The thing is with that data, I grabbed from him, it was like, he just started last month and he made like nothing, but he's like, yeah, I just started last month.
Okay.
And then I got data from his past thing, like, what were you doing before? What happened? He basically got laid off, but it wasn't like a business and stuff. He's like, they did restructuring, I got laid off. So,
Okay. So if it's only, that makes sense. If it's only last month, then the thing that you need to clarify is the reason why he wants to have a second business something that is aligned with your successful clients? If the answer is no, then you have to have the commitment to say, we are not aligned. If he doesn't give you a reason that is aligned with your standards as a business, as a closer, what you believe in, what the business believes in, then you have to unsell, because that's your values. Your value is, okay, well, that's totally fine that's your reason. That is not something that we agree with in this business. And the reason for that is that we believe successful people are successful because they focus on one thing at a time, and they get success in one thing before they move on to another thing. You're not of that opinion, which is totally fine. Completely respect your opinion. But because our opinions are not aligned, we would not be a fit.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. What I meant by I tried to tell him was basically like, I showed him the data and I'm like, why not just do that? He's like, yeah, I could just do that. I'm like, then why are we here? He's like, yeah, I just wanted to see. So that's when I was like, okay.
You could probably dig a little bit deeper into why he wants to see, because you would say, okay, well, if the thing that you're doing, that you've been doing for the last month, is going in the direction that you wanted it to for the last month, then I'm not understanding why you would want to take your eye off the ball and start looking at other things, unless there's a part of you that hasn't had the results you expected, or predicts that the results are not going to be what you want moving forward. At this point in the call, Parsa, you have to kind of give them some choice A, choice B, choice C, because you're at the point in the call where you've given them open-ended questions and they're not getting it. So you would now start giving them binary choices.
Yeah, makes sense.
And if they still don't get it, then you're just going to unsell them.
Makes sense.
Is that clear?
Yeah. I have a call right now.
Sure.
I'm gonna be late, so that's why I'm nervous, guys. I'm chill.
No worries.
Yeah. Thank you, Josh. Thank you.
You're very welcome, brother.
Bye.
All right. Bye. All right. We'll bring up Nikhil and then we'll wrap up, guys. Have we been on 2 hours? Wow. 2 hours, 15.
2 hours and 15 minutes.
Awesome. All right, Nikhil, what's going on, brother?
Alrighty. What's up? I had one huge takeaway. Well, two, but one of them was that on a call that I had that closed a few days ago, the prospect was telling me, he was saying how he had such super low expectations for a company, lack of trust, all this stuff. And I'm asking him at the end of the call, I'm like, okay, well, how has this call been in terms of your expectations? He's like, well, actually, it's been really good. And I think you've done an excellent job. Besides the fact, I think you've said it makes sense way too many times, and especially times that I feel like it didn't make sense. And the guy he's in the high ticket space. He's in sales. So he would just said that. I'm like, huh. And then seeing Zion do the same thing, I'm like, wait, this is my stock response. Like, got it. Makes sense. Understood. And 50% of the time, I don't understand. So that was probably the biggest takeaway that I can just go ahead and improve on right now.
Beautiful. The key word there, what was the key word as to why we're making this mistake, guys? There was a word that Nikhil used in there, which is why stock. Well done, Fiona. Anytime you're using stock anything, guys, it's going to work for a segment of whatever you're doing because it's stock. 10% of the time, this stock, cookie cutter, pre-planned thing is going to fit. Well, there's also 90% of the rest of the times. The only way to have a 100% hit rate is to have flexibility, guys, because life is not static. The only way to have a 100% accuracy rate is for you to be adaptable. You can't have a stock response or a stock thing for anything and want a 100% success rate. So the key word was, I've got a stock question, a stock response, a stock phrase, a stock, even a stock state, guys. I don't think I've shared this many times, if at all, but when started training me to get into business, he was like, your biggest leak is that you have a stock state. In other words, my state was always discovery mode, like super stoic, super chill, super relaxed. And he was like, that's fine, but not when you're fucking recording a YouTube video. If you're recording a YouTube video, you need to be high energy, intense, like grabbing people's attention. If I sit there on a YouTube video and say, all right, so in this video, we're going to dive into blank, and it's like, it's way too slow. It's too slow. It's too chill. It's too stoic. It's too low energy. And that was because I had a stock state, which is I'm a sales guy. I know how to run a discovery, and there's a state that I need to be in for a discovery. Well, life is not always discoveries, guys. If you go on a date with a girl and you're in fucking discovery mode, probably going to be a shit date for the girl. She'll be bored out her mind. She'll be like, is this an interview? Right? You can do that sometimes, but you also need to have other ways of showing up. In other words, if you want to be a self-actualized human being, the thing that you need to avoid is anything that is a stock thing. You have to have flexibility and adaptability. That is what self-actualizing is having the spectrum of all different things. Okay? All right, folks. Does anybody else have anything else you would like to add? Questions?
I have a question.
Go for it. Absolutely.
So the other thing was that how Zion was leading with he's using open-ended questions, but he was still leading. Yeah. And it's definitely something that I've done before as well. And I tried to kind of connect the cause and effect to that. So like leading with open-ended questions, at least the way I feel, is that then the closer clearly has an agenda, which will cause the prospect to maybe not be cause them to close down a little bit. And then I feel like what that leads to is that's 15 minutes into the discovery, me feeling like, I feel like something's really missing right now.
Yeah.
And then the way I feel is like, I want to get out of discovery mode and just be like, Josh, I get everything that we've said so far, but I feel like there's something big in X area. And I feel like I want to ask something like that.
Okay, pause. What is the one thing, put in the chat, guys, if you did what Nikhil did, there is one slight shift that you need to do to what Nikhil did for that to be effective. What is it? Because doing that's close, Yuri, close, not exactly, not permission, nope. Anybody else?
There is something super interesting you said. I want to dive into that.
Nope. If you feel at the end of a call or anywhere in a call that something's missing, whose fault is it?
It's the closer's fault.
So you need to say that. So I'm definitely clear on everything, but I feel like I've missed something. Notice the difference. I feel like I've missed something. I feel like I haven't connected the dots correctly here. Slight difference, but it makes all the difference. If you say, okay, I'm clear on everything, but I feel like something's missing. Can you share with me what's missing? They're like, they might know or they might not that like, well, the thing's missing, dumbass, because you didn't ask me the right questions or because you led the conversation. If you don't get in front of your own mistake, why the fuck should the prospect help you out? Why should they help you help them when your job was to help them from the get-go by not leading, not having an agenda. Now, everybody screws up, guys. You could get on a call, not be in the best state, and you start leading the call, and good for you. 20 minutes in, you're like, I don't feel like I did a good job at this call. I want to try and salvage it. Beautiful, amazing, super good honesty, super good caring about the prospect, but it's only going to work if you start with the cause, which is, I feel like I've missed something in this call. If you really want to, guys, you could say, I feel like you've been very honest with me, Nikhil. You know, you've told me all these details. I feel like I may have kind of wanted to ask about certain things that I wanted to ask about, and that's because I care, but I also feel like I have kind of missed the ball here by maybe not being as open with what you wanted to share, what's really going on. Is that accurate? And then now the prospect's mind is blown because they're like, not only did this closer realize they fucked up, but they also said, it's me that fucked up. If you're ever going to have a shot at salvaging a call, that's how you're going to have to do it. Does that make sense, Nikhil? The difference?
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you.
Very welcome. I cut you off basically. So was there something more you wanted to add? But I wanted to jump in and get that addition.
No, that's all I need, because there's the bigger issue of actually just fixing the questions to begin with. But while this is like just being honest and vulnerable can help you, mitigate some of the problems that not running the best discovery can cause.
Yeah. Let me use a funny analogy, guys. Imagine if you're a basketball player that every time you're on the court, you tell the people on your team to pass you the ball and you're going to go for a 3-pointer. But for whatever reason, during this game, you keep missing on your 3-pointers. But then the other teammates don't chase after the ball to get the rebound. And you start grilling them. You're like, why are you not getting my rebound? They'd be like, why are you fucking missing the ball in the first place? Why are you not getting it on your 3-pointer? You wanted to go for a 3-pointer, and now you want us to go and get your rebounds? Fuck you. As opposed to, imagine if you're like, guys, you took a timeout, and you're like, guys, I'm really sorry. I keep missing these 3-pointers. I really appreciate it that you keep getting the rebounds for me. I'm going to try and do better. Now your teammates are going to be like, yeah, fair enough. Like, we're the ones having to chase after his rebounds and put in the graft to get the rebounds, but at least he's admitting that he's fucking up all these 3-pointers. You see the difference, guys? It's about social awareness and social calibration. Yeah? All right. Anybody else got anything you want to add, guys? Put your hand up if you got something you want to add, takeaway, question.
I don't know if that's like a thing, but like obviously I was playing a prospect, but like at the end of the discovery, I just wanted to say, like, to you as the closer, thank you. I don't know where it came from. I was just feeling like I need to thank this guy because I was living in this reality for 2 years that I wasn't aware of things, and he just got me to this massive clarity, and it was just awesome to just feel that when I was playing a prospect.
That's very powerful. So I'm glad you shared that. That is a real thing. It's a massive thing. It's because most people don't have someone in their life, anyone in their life, that has 2 traits. Trait number 1, they have the actual competency to help them. Trait number 2, they have the actual selflessness to want to help them and to actually do it. There are 3 types of people in your life. There are people that have neither of those. They have no competency, neither do they really give a shit about helping you. Most people fit into the second category, which is they have one or the other. They're really, really good at what they're skilled at, but they're not really going out of their own way to manage themselves to help you. Or, this one usually is your family, care about you so much, but they don't have a very high skill level of certain things that would be useful for you in your life. In other words, they want to help you, but they just don't have the competency to help you. It is very rare in your life that you come across someone that's developed a high value skill at a very masterful level, and they're a good fucking person that they can put you and your needs above themselves. When you get on the phone or any interaction with someone like that, you do feel blessed. You feel like, wow, like I feel so grateful that I've been in the presence of this person that's super competent and is actually trying to help me.
Caring so much, yeah. You just feel the good intention.
Like, there's very few people that have this, guys, but imagine, and for those that don't have this, if you step into this imagination, you'll really feel it. There's very few people in the world that have parents that are uber successful. And like, I mean successful not because they were drug dealers or mafia people or inherited money, but super successful because they've actually built their skill set. And now they've been blessed with having parents that are incredibly competent, but also really love you and really care about you. Very few people have parents like that, guys. Imagine being raised by someone that's gone from rags to riches, built a multi-million-dollar company, become a master salesperson, a master builder of an e-com store, a master speaker, master in anything. It's very rare that people have parents like that. And so most people are just feeling super grateful to be on the phone with someone that's actually put in the work to start becoming that type of person. So your prospects
100%.
will feel that, guys. Will really feel like that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. I'm glad you shared that, Daniel. That was very powerful. All right, folks. That's us for today. Now, giving you a heads up, I know there's not many left on this chat. We've got 17 on here. And for those that are in the WhatsApp group, you're welcome to put this in the WhatsApp group as well. This coming week, not this coming week, the next week is going to be role play week. So the whole of next, not this week, in 3 days, the week after that, we're going to have a role play call Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Wednesday will be the normal live call. Okay, so if you want to plan your calendar around that, same time as normal. So it will be the same time as these calls. It'll be a whole week of role plays. Okay.
Is
Awesome,
it
thank
is it you playing the closer, or is it just role playing with each other?
Maybe a mix. We'll see. Undecided, to be determined.
Okay, cool.
I might just leave it up to you guys, and I might just say, right, we're on today, Monday. Does someone want to role play, or does someone want me to close them on their offer? And I might just make it a free for all.
I think everyone's gonna want you to close them on their offer, but yeah, we'll see.
If that's what the group wants, guys, I'm more than happy to do it. Whatever's going to help you guys out the most. All right, folks. Catch you soon. Have a good rest of your day,
Thank
guys.
you, Josh.
You're welcome.
All right, guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
All right, another high ticket sales role play. Now, we've gone through a lot of different things on this role play, but I'm going to go through the main things that you need to be learning so that you can put them in your discovery and start closing more deals. Number one, open-ended questions. How is that going? As opposed to questions like, what is going on? Another one, having a natural conversation. You saw that we're going off into all different areas and everything is tying together nicely. The key is that it's authentic. The moment a prospect feels like they're in a sales call, no matter how competent you are at asking good questions, they do not want to be sold to by a salesperson. They want to have a conversation and a discussion with a real human being. So the way that you learn to sell must fit within that so that you don't lose sales just because the conversation is not natural. Results. You are only measured as a salesperson by calls that close. If you're looking at your calls and thinking, I'm doing all the tactics, I'm doing all the mechanics, I'm doing everything right, but you're not making the money you want to be making, then you're not actually doing the right things. And there's a big difference between doing what gets results and doing what people are training. In other words, there's a lot of things that you'll get trained to do, tonality, body language. But if you're not making the money that you want to be making, maybe you're learning the wrong things. What about this? Painting the picture. How many times do you have a prospect tell you something and you say, got it, but you don't actually know the full 360-degree 4K resolution picture? If you don't see it in your mind's eye, the prospect doesn't feel it in their body. And if they don't feel what's going on, they're not going to buy. They're not going to give you money. What about putting words in the prospect's mouth? You can try and get the prospects to say and tell you all the pain points that you want them to say. And maybe they will. But if you put those words in their mouth, they are not taking ownership of those words because you fed them to them. So it's very important that the way you learn to ask questions is about getting the prospect to tell you what's going on rather than you to dictate to the prospect what you feel is going on. All right, massive one. Don't train your prospects to be incongruent by you being incongruent. If you don't get something, don't say after the prospect speaks, okay, got it. If you don't got it, say, I don't get it. There cannot be stock responses in your discoveries, in how you speak, because the moment that you lean on a stock response is the moment that you stop being authentic. And if you stop being authentic, like I said a moment ago, you'll lose trust and you'll lose sales. Don't lead people. The conversation shouldn't be trying to get the conversation where you want it to go. It should be having an open discussion and seeing if naturally the chips fall where they need to fall for the prospect to enroll and become a client. Most of the time it will, especially on an inbound sales call. But the moment that you try and make the chips fall there by leading, you actually find that you get less times that the situation naturally turns into a close because you're trying to force it, and you actually lower the amount of people that end up buying that would have actually bought if you just weren't leading them. And the final bit is what Daniel said, which is prospects will thank you when you become someone worth thanking. Prospects are not going to thank you if all you can do is read off a script. Prospects are not going to thank you if you're only doing sales training but not actually becoming the person that is a leader. So if you want to make those changes, if you want to get on the inside and start working with me directly, be on these role plays. Be the person that has the opportunity to play the prospect, play the closer, and ask me your personalized questions of the biggest leaks that you have on your sales calls that are keeping you from making the money that you want to be making. Then click the link below this video and join the Unicorn Closer Mastermind so that you can get dedicated training on what you need to work on. And you do that on the inside of the mastermind. So for those that are ready to take action and get around the other unicorns, I look forward to working with you and seeing you on the inside.